Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited about bringing on my next guest. I have with me Bill Stevens, and he's with PAC Wealth Partners. Welcome to the show. I want you to tell everybody first a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, PAC Wealth Partners, and then what you do.
Great, thanks, Carol. Recently moved to Arizona about 4 years ago. Grew up in New York, middle-class family. Dad was a truck driver, mom was a nurse. Growing up, I always wanted to have an impact on people's lives. Went to school for political science and economics. And in learning more about economics, I saw how important finances were for people. And my parents being middle class, working class people, hadn't saved a lot for retirement. That became a focus of mine. So did that for about 5 years as an advisor right out of college. And I think back to one of my first clients and how I helped them. Small business owner, had just opened up a hair salon, and young guy. And his mom had passed away just a few years before, and she left him with a ton of debt. And he was concerned that he didn't want to do that to his sister. So I sold him a small life insurance policy. And unfortunately, about 6 months later, he died of an illness that he had no idea he had. The insurance company paid the claim, and I remember going to the funeral, or the wake, and everyone else was giving flowers and cards and condolences, and I delivered a check to his sister, and it made an impact on me that I could make a difference in people's lives. So I did that. And then I got recruited into corporate, I joked, 30 years on the dark side working in corporate for a number of different companies, helping run distribution, train it. I probably trained 2,000 or 3,000 advisors over the years. And when I got done with that, I wanted to get back to being an advisor. And it happened to coincide with us moving to Arizona, and I said it's a great time to start fresh. So that's my story.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the firm that you're with, because you have so much respect for them and what they do and how they help. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, PAC Wealth Partners is probably one of the main reasons why I got back into becoming an advisor. I've known the founder, Nash Sabatic, for 18, 19 years, and that's when he started the company out in Honolulu, Hawaii. Met him. Myself and a team of our people convinced him to start the company. And early on, I guess I was a bit of a mentor for him. And the saying, when the student becomes the teacher, now he is the ultimate mentor for me. He's absolutely a brilliant business person, passionate about helping people, and he has done wonders in helping me get back into being a top flight advisor for the clients that I have. So
now I want to give out some information a little bit about you. Number one, you say that you work mostly here. You're building your business here in Arizona, but you're licensed to work nationally.
Correct. Yeah. PAC Wealth Partners is a mid-sized regional firm. We have brick and mortar locations up and down the West Coast, but we're licensed and able to do business in any of the 50 states.
Now, I want to put out this information because, I have to ask you a question before we even go on to something that that's not on your questions, okay? And that I want to know, do you do second opinions? Because a lot of people might already have, let's say, somebody that they work with, may have not heard from them in a while, especially when the market is so wonky, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Do you do second opinions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most people that are successful financially have a financial advisor of some way, shape, or form, right? We do a lot of second opinions. We also do what I like to call stress testing. So people, who have a plan, a lot of the times I'll ask them, have you ever had your plan stress tested? And they go, what do you mean? Well,
what do you mean?
Do you want it to work under all circumstances? If you have a heart problem, you go to a cardiologist, the cardiologist tells you something, and then a lot of the times you go to a second cardiologist because you want a second opinion. But both of them are probably going to put you through a stress test. to make sure that everything is working the way it should? Well, most people have never put their financial plan through a stress test. So that's one of the things that we do for almost all of our clients.
And so, can I ask you what that will tell them at the end? Whether
Yeah.
whether they can survive a storm?
Well, yeah, I mean, I use analogies a lot, and usually they're sports analogies.
That's
but,
okay.
But not always. So one aspect of financial planning is retirement planning, right? And most people say, yeah, my goal is to get to retirement. Well, that's really not what the goal should be, right? It really should be, I want to get to retirement and then enjoy my retirement safely. It's like if I was going to Mount Everest, some people would say, well, my goal is to get to the summit of Mount Everest. No, my goal is to get to the summit of Mount Everest and then get down safely. And unfortunately, a lot of people get into retirement and they find out, oh, I don't know if I have enough money. And what we are able to do is stress test if they have enough money by making sure that they have assets to cover their expenses, and we can put it up against a lot of different circumstances to see, okay, well, based on this, your assets are gonna last 10 years. Well, wait a second, I'm gonna live to 95, my whole family has lived to 95. Well, then we have to do some things differently. And a lot of times, they haven't had that done for them.
When is the best time for them to call you?
Yesterday. You know, I joke, it's, you know, when's the best time? 5 years ago? 10 years ago? Yeah, when the sooner you put a plan together, the more time you have to make that plan work.
Now, his phone number is 480-787-2724. The website is smartfinancialdecisions.info. Now remember, it's .info. So again, Smart Financial Decisions with an S, .info. So what would you say makes you different from them, from all the other firms that are out there?
I think it's a couple of things, Carol. One is, we really get to know our clients. We get to know them intimately. Before I get into the numbers, because numbers are important, right? When we're talking about finances, but I need to know what their goals are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, what keeps them up at night. So before we get into the numbers, and we have a process that we follow, but before we get into that, I ask them all those questions, and we document it. And we use those answers as their North Star. So every financial decision that they make going forward, we're gonna look back on those things. Now, that may change over time. You know, I have one client that when they were growing up, they always wanted to have a lake house. So that's on their list. We have that as one of their North Stars. Well, they got their lake house. Okay, so that's now off the list. What's gonna replace it? And it's not a once and done thing. We want a lifetime working with clients and working with their children and ultimately working with their children's children, because that's how financial wealth is built over time.
Right, and you know, the thing is that it's so important, number one, is to make the call so that you can find out where you stand. He's talking about a stress test that almost anybody who has any kind of financial wealth at all should make sure that you have it, so that you take that stress test and find out, where do we stand? That's gonna give you, that's the first thing you do with people, besides getting their information and finding out their story. Obviously, everyone's got a story.
Yeah, we have a process that we take people through, and it's really, I think it's kind of neat, because it's a one-screen, one-page look. It's like an MRI of their financial world, and every aspect of their finances is on that. And then what we're able to do is go through a checklist. And it's simple, you know, red, yellow, green, red, hey, we've got some work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow, you're either making progress or you're going in the wrong direction, right? And then green is, hey, you're doing great, let's keep doing what you're doing, let's do more of what you're doing. But in essence, we're not telling them that there's only one way to do this. We're gonna be a Sherpa, we're gonna guide them, because everyone gets to the mountain and down the mountain their own way.
Their own way. His phone number again, it's 480-787-2724. 2724. He's growing his business here in Arizona, but he does work nationwide. You can check him out on his website, which is Smart Financial Decisions with an S.info. And I think the best thing to do is to call him, have that consultation. Do you do free consultations?
Yeah, we don't charge for our initial consultation. It's usually anywhere from 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and then we review, where they're at and what it would take to move forward.
Have the consultation. It starts off, where are you at? What's your story? And then we go from there. Again, that phone number to call is 480-787-2724. Check him out on his website. It's Smart Financial Decisions with an S.info. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, did you like what I did so far?
Yeah.
I hope it's okay that I asked some questions that were... They're nothing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be able to say some of those other things for you. So now we're here.
Yep.
So we're kind of like right where we need to be, correct? Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you're working with somebody, just out of curiosity, what do you find is the most, when you say, you said it today, I guess bringing that check to them, but you don't just do life insurance, right? But what is the most rewarding thing that you find about your business and what you do?
I'm an educator, right? So I'm educating people about finances. Most people have no clue, and especially small business owners. Their life is so complicated with trying to run a business. They're usually really good at what they do.
Right,
They're not good at
right.
running a business. So when I'm able to help them and free them up and help them save maybe some money on taxes and be able to start saving for their family in the future, and they come back and they're like, Bill, I don't know what I would have done without you, and you give me referrals to other people. That's what it's all about.
Right. Then that's something that you can do, I feel here would be very good, because this is a business station, okay? Lots of business owners for that ilk, that minded person. And I mean, you could do it like where you're doing it 101, financial advising, calling it that.
Sometimes it comes down to financial literacy.
Well, exactly, but financial advising, financial literacy for small business owners, focusing it a little bit more, I'm just saying, where you can actually do that and educate them. That's what's super cool, I think. That would be really neat to be able to do. If you do seminars and things like that,
Yeah.
You've got time.
I've got seminars, I do seminars for specializing with like realtors. I'll do stuff, small business owners, and then just people that are getting ready for retirement and aren't ready for retirement.
Where do you do your seminars?
It depends. I mean, I just did one at a title company a couple of weeks ago. It was a small group, worked with a bunch of realtors. Have another one coming up, I think, in September. It's hit, I don't really market it.
Okay.
I get asked.
Okay.
And then I have to erase and put something through compliance.
Right. Obviously, that's the one thing that has changed it's been a while though, in your line of work is that compliance,
Well, you know what, it's needed. But it's gone overboard.
Yeah, I think so too. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Bill Stevens, and he's with West PAC Wealth Partners. And Bill, we've been talking a little bit about during the break, but some of the things that you really like to do. I love to talk to people, get to know them a little bit more during the break when we're doing this show. I want you to talk about your stress test really quickly about people, because I want you to talk about that one more time for people that might have just tuned in. Go ahead.
Sure. So part of our process is taking a look at all aspects of someone's finances. And when we do that, we want to make sure that their financial goals will work under any circumstance, if inflation's high, if inflation is low. So we have software that allows us to really dig deep and model out what things will look like if. And we want to make sure that it works under all or 99.9% of the circumstances.
Sure, that makes so much sense. Now, what are some of the things that you can, specifically help your clients with?
Yeah, well, getting back to our process, we really look at 5 critical aspects of someone's finances. So the first thing is financial organization. Most people have no idea what they have, where it is. If you think about your kitchen junk drawer at home, I ask people all the time, do you have a kitchen junk drawer? And they laugh. I said, that's what I usually find people's finances look like. They graduate college, they buy a car, they get auto insurance, they throw it in the drawer. They get a job, they get a 401k, they throw it in the drawer. They get health insurance, they throw it in the drawer. And when we say, what do you have? They're like, I have no idea, so we have to look it all up. So one of the things that we do is we bring them through a process where they know everything that they have, and it's on that one screen. The second thing is, we want to make sure that they optimize their protection. What I mean by that is, if they were to get sued, what's their liability coverage on their auto and homeowners? Now, I don't handle auto and homeowners, but I'll have them work with their P&C person to make sure that they're optimized. What if they get hurt? What if they get sick? Do they have that right coverage? What if they're sued or they die and they want to leave money to their estate? Do they have an estate plan in place? Do they have life insurance? We believe in protecting today's before you can build tomorrow. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, at the end of the day, people hate paying taxes. We have to pay taxes, but most people pay more than they probably have to, especially small, closely held business owners. So what we do is we analyze their taxes and their debt and make sure that they're taking advantage of all that they can to minimize debt and taxes. That leads us to the fourth thing, which is becoming, I like to say, we love people to become world-class savers. Most people are only saving 4, 5, maybe 6% of their income. They should be saving 15 to 20%. Now, when I start working with people, most people think they can never get to that. And the amazing thing is, after 2 or 3 years, they're saving more than that. So that's a big area. And then, everyone wants to talk about investing. Yeah, investing is sexy. I'm going to get you a better rate of return than the next guy. That's not how we work. What we want to do is we want to help people become efficient wealth managers. So are you getting the optimal return on the risk you're willing to take? So anyone can say, well, I can get you a 12% rate of return instead of a 10%. We don't do that. We don't chase rates of return. If that's what someone wants to do, we want you to go somewhere else. But what we're going to do is we're going to educate you on what the markets look like, what is a good rate of return for your risk profile, and then that's what we're going to strive for.
Because that other percentage of what they can do maybe wasn't good for you.
Right.
Exactly. Now, I want to give out his information first, and then I'll go on. First of all, you do free 60 to 90-minute consultations. You said that. He wants you to call. He wants you to talk to him and have that consultation, find out a little bit about you, obviously, and maybe do that stress test so that you can, start with knowing where you stand. His phone number is 480-787-2724. The website is Smart Financial Decisions with an S.info. Remember, it's .info. Now, I wanted to ask you who your ideal client is.
It's a tough one, Carol. I like working with anybody. I like working with people that are getting ready for retirement. I like working with young couples that are trying to set up a plan. But I really enjoy the complexity of certain types of plans. And I find that smaller business owners, and when I say small business owners, I'm talking from startups to maybe doing 50 million in revenue. I personally don't think that's small. Probably closely held business owner is a better phrase. Someone that owns a business, maybe a partner or 2, 3 partners. But their financial world is so complex because they've got their personal finances, and then they've got their business finances. And they've sunk their blood, sweat, tears, money from their personal into the business. And now all their assets are wrapped up in the business. And there's this gray area in between where it's kind of back and forth, and they end up overpaying in taxes. They're not getting the respect that they deserve. Most advisors really rather work with very wealthy people or executives, and they're not being, I don't think they're being serviced the way that they should be. And our firm as a whole really specializes in working with that kind of business owner. And we help them understand how their personal and their business finances can come together. And we help them become world-class savers and all the things that I just mentioned before. So that's my, I'd love to work with one of those people every day, because it's exciting, it's challenging, and I'm not an expert at everything, but our firm is full of experts in all different areas, so I can bring that kind of resource to bear.
Well, I think it's great, and I think you mentioned a few things that really stood out in my mind. There's a lot of small business owners out there up to, would you say, $50 million in profit, but there's a lot of hardworking small business owners out there. Like you said, I think they've taken all of their personal, what you said, it made so much sense to me, how so many of them have taken their personal finances to run that business, right? And now they're getting older, right? And they don't know how to, what do I do? Can you explain that part of it?
Sure. So most business owners, their business is their baby, right? And what we found, they're usually family run. The family dynamics is an interesting mix.
Oh, yeah.
And then the business owner ultimately says, well, I want to exit this business. I want to get out and I want to be able to enjoy my life. I want to get and my business must be worth millions.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing sometimes we have to do is do evaluation and figure out what's it really worth. And sometimes you're telling the business owner that their baby is ugly, right? But what we'll do is sit down next to them and show them, okay, if you start planning ahead of time, kind of like what you asked me before, when's the best time to do this? Yesterday. Start planning ahead of time so that we can maximize the value of your business and then help you exit the business. So we're not business exit planners in that we don't find people to buy the business. But what we'll do is we'll help them maximize the value, and then what we'll do is we'll make sure that they have an estate plan that makes sense with the value they get from the business so that they can live a great life and they can pass that legacy on to future generations.
Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk a little bit about this. Are the listeners and they want to get in touch with you. If they have more specific questions about their situation, so where do they go?
Sure.
Obviously, I've been giving out that website, but I do want you to talk about this right here too as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the website again is Smart Financial Decisions. That's plural. .info. And you know, you can give me a call on the phone number that we've talked about, the 480-787-2724. But on the website, you can go in, you can ask me questions. You can actually take a sample of the kind of work that we do. It's a very small snapshot of, you know, you put in a little bit of facts and it'll give you some information back. But the biggest thing is give me a call. We'll set up a Zoom call, or you can stop by our office. We're right in North Scottsdale, right off of Raintree and Thompson Peak. And we'll spend an hour, 90 minutes. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions, and I think no matter what happens, you'll get something valuable out of our time together.
That phone number to call again, it's 480-787-2724. He does do complimentary 60 to 90 minute consultations. They're located right here in North Scottsdale, or you can do it over Zoom if you want. Most of his clients are here in Arizona, but he is licensed to work nationwide. Again, that number is 480-787-2724. The website is Smart Financial Decisions with an S. .info, and don't forget, it's .info.
Thanks, Carol.